everyone to Teahouse Chats, your monthly dive into the dynamic world of scholarly publishing, hosted by the Scholarly Publishing Teahouse at LaGuardia Community College. I'm Ann Mitsuuchi, and today I'm joined by my fellow tea-loving librarians, Thomas Cleary and Elizabeth Jardine, and we're here to share our insights and spark conversation on everything from open access to peer review, all served with a side of fun. Whether you're charting your first publication or navigating the seas of digital scholarship, our Teahouse is open to all. Ready to see what's brewing? Let's get started, and don't forget to subscribe for your monthly sip of scholarly success. Today we're going to talk about what you do when your paper or your work gets rejected from the publisher. We're going to talk about that and revising ideas.
I think rejection's probably, it's not pleasant, but it's fairly universal. I know I've had a rejection.
Yeah, me too. That's
same. Mine's was more recent, which is still something I'm wrestling with.
Yeah, me too. I'm in the middle of the revision process also.
I think getting the rejection, you have to go through sort of an acceptance process, maybe getting upset or grieving or whatever, get yourself through it. I know I sort of had to work through that, and then once I was done and, cursed the journal that rejected me as much as I could, that I was able to move on.
Did you reapply to the same journal with a similar article, or did you pick like a different venue for it?
The one I had rejected was something I did kind of special. I had already written on that topic, and I was trying to get it in a different sort of journal venue, a non-library journal, and it was for a special section too of a journal, so it wasn't really something I wanted to take somewhere else because I'd already published on it. It was something I was just like, let me try this.
Right.
And they didn't like it, and I was like, well, all right. Then I just went on to something else. So that I did not try to revise.
I think it's kind of like romantic rejection. Sometimes you have to forgive yourself and think about how it might turn out better. Actually, you might find a better place for your work. Given this one setback, right? You were rejected for possibly a reason that works for the both of you, right? It just wasn't right for that particular venue or that particular time or theme or something like that. At least that's what I'm telling myself anyway.
No, that's what, I read that a lot, that sometimes you just had bad timing and the rejection is no reflection on the quality of your work or your writing. They may have just published a whole special issue on your topic. Well, maybe They don't need another article. Or even if you do something niche that they publish on rarely, they did just come out with something. It may be that your scope, you were a little bit out of scope, and you're just not quite right for the journal right now. So you don't need to always kick yourself or feel bad, because it may just have nothing to do with you, just your timing.
Yeah.
I had that with, they had recently changed the scope of the journal. So like if you're looking through other articles they published, it's like, oh yeah, this article fits great. They revised the scope a little bit. If you're reading the scope, you're like, oh yeah, this still fits. And then they're like, yeah, we went through it. Doesn't really fit our scope. You could do these changes. Like, this is too many revisions. It'd be better to switch to a different journal that might fit it a bit better.
Well, that's an interesting point about where you drawing that line between, yes, I'm going to do major revisions, or no, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, for me, is like I didn't feel like I could write about. I think they wanted like a very long article too, like in depth about they were more about theory related to oral history practices, so like methodologies and theory related parts to the practice rather than more the hands-on project based part. So it's kind of like a bit beyond me to like fully revise and go like deep on like a specific part of theory rather than like what happened to this project and what can we learn from it. So it was just like let's switch to a journal that focuses a bit more on the projects and like some twists to it, but not necessarily where you have to go like very like at length on it.
I guess if you weren't setting up your project with a specific theoretical
Yeah.
methodological approach in mind, going back and sort of slapping one on after the fact is kind of, yeah.
I thought about it, and that was gonna be too much effort.
In a weird way, I might have to like unrevise what I did, because I think I was trying to, whittle down my manuscript to fit the scope of this particular journal's focus, and now that it was rejected, it sort of opens it up again. I might actually choose a different venue for it that would be a little bit more expansive. So I might be able to put things back that I had taken out. So I mean, again, sometimes things can work out, from what seems like a setback, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, that's great. And when we're talking about rejection, there's a couple of ways that can go. You can have the very quick rejection, what's called a desk rejection, where the editor, probably with the scope issue that you ran into, maybe that was the editor just saying, no, this is wrong, and it never went to reviewers. And then sometimes it can go to the reviewers, and at that point, the rejection comes out of that.
Yeah, I did sort of both from that same journal. So there's desk rejection for the first scope part, and then they're like, okay, this mostly matches. And then it kind of came out through the reviewers that didn't really match scope. So then there's a full rejection after that. Again, it's like, okay, time to give up here.
Well, hopefully maybe you got something out of the rejection, if they gave some substantive feedback that can help you move on to the next journal, even if they decide it's not right.
Well, the feedback helped me understand like why the rejection more was happening, or like what they were looking for. That was really useful, and kind of helped that decision between like, do we keep on going for this or like switch to something a little different.
I saw some interesting statistics from studies that have been done about rejection. People study rejection from journals. And the range of responses you can get from reviewers, I mean, obviously it's very subjective. It's what that particular reviewer thinks. But let me find the number here. Reviewers will have a range of responses to the same article with agreement among reviewers ranging from only 40% to 70%.
Huh.
So more than 25 a quarter of the time, the reviewers are not going to agree.
Huh.
And if you only have one reviewer, then you're stuck with whatever their opinion is.
Oh, that's surprising. I thought there would be more consensus. Just like when we're reviewing scholarship essay applications, I feel like the teams that I've been on have been pretty much on the same page. But I mean, that just could be chance, right?
Well, you use the word team. That's people working together. Reviewers are out doing their own thing. People may be new to review. I mean, who gets trained to do peer review? I think some journals do have, or some organizations have some, like online training you can do to.
I did one once, and it was like a half-hour webinar to do that training.
Okay, so
if that long.
And did it help you become a better peer reviewer?
Part of it was mostly working about their software, how to go through the process of it. So no, it wasn't very good training.
It was like this is what's wrong with our platform for submitting applications and things like that.
Kind of, yeah. They're like, oh, here's your login. Here's where you get the files.
I wish more journals would have at the very least just a set of guidelines. The last time I had to do peer review, I was looking for that. So the journal didn't have that. So I went back and I looked at guidelines from some previous journal peer review that I did, and that was I used that even though it was not instructed to do so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you found something that was helpful.
Yeah.
That's great, because some people probably don't even bother to look for something. They just start making their comments.
Yeah, I think editorial groups should probably keep that in mind, just to enable their peer reviewers to do something more consistent. So perhaps there would be less variance if people knew what they were looking for and just weren't going on their gut feeling, right?
Yeah.
That could be another interesting new study if that hasn't been done. random journal rejections versus rejections, or reviewer agreement from journals where there is some sort of guidelines, training. They try to get the reviewers on the same page. But, just finding reviewers has always been, from what it seems, just a hard thing to do. If someone's got a niche topic, maybe there's just 10 people in the world who can review it.
Yeah.
I think that's the larger problem. Like this is sort of thankless, anonymous volunteer work that we do just out of the goodness of our hearts, right?
Absolutely, it is thankless volunteer. Well, maybe some people, the journals do thank the reviewers, but I don't know how often that happens.
They framed it as like professional development, like because you're reading other people's literature and things like on that, which is a good twist on it, like for marketing to people in the meeting. Please sign up to be a reviewer. And
also the universities and colleges frame it as this is service to your profession.
I think we're always going back to that, right? How this kind of service needs to be sort of looked at under the auspices of scholarly contributions more solidly, I think,
Right. I mean, just having the only peer-reviewed articles counting as scholarship, there's other things that we do, and contributing to those peer review articles as a reviewer, that would be nice if it was moved out of the service category, which is already very crowded in some places, and moved over to the scholarship category. And then more people might do it. It might be easier to find reviewers. You might get better reviewers.
Yes.
Especially if you could keep them for a period of time rather than just one-off.
Yeah, because like with that, the one I did, it was like just a one-off type thing, and there's no like, can't work on being a better reviewer because you just get that like one article and you have to sign up again to like do more articles, and it's just like, this is too much effort. They weren't very focused on keeping people there long term, or in their system, I guess, long term.
Well, then it talks about or points toward the difficulties of perhaps some journals keeping their editors, whether it's the main editor or the like assistant editors who maybe do more of the peer review farming out. Those may be grad students who come and go, or hopefully they come and go. You want them to graduate and move on. Again, is that counted as scholarship for somebody who's editor of a journal, or is that in the service category again?
Yeah, you're advancing scholarship, definitely. That's the key role to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important, and it's I find it's personally valuable too. I mean, I just wish I had more time and support to commit to it.
Yeah.
I've never done a peer review.
Oh,
no one's asked. And I guess I'm sure I could go and volunteer, but it's always nice to be asked.
It's going to happen like.
Oh, Anne's looking at me. She's going to ask. If you were here in person and saw Anne's eyes, the way she's looking at me, I'm going to get an invitation real soon.
Already have one lined up, right?
This was a great topic, Liz. I really think that we need to have more conversations about failures and rejections. That's something that I think that we all learn from, and I think that we don't tell those are not the stories that we share with each other as much as we could.
Absolutely. I mean, nobody likes to say they failed, but if the word gets out and is shared that, hey, this journal, maybe they didn't have great peer reviewers. Another study, and these study figures that I'm sharing here all come from Wendy Belcher's How to Write Your Scholarly Article in 12 Weeks. There was a study that showed 25% of reviews were of very poor quality. Not just of poor quality, of very poor quality.
Well, that's not as so surprising, actually.
And then, I love this one, another study, over 40% of reviews had comments that could be interpreted to indicate bias or prejudice. So we work at a community college. We're not coming with an big institutional research reputation.
Yeah. I've seen the community college part a bit as a tool to use, because you could be like, oh yeah, you guys are missing this. This is like, why don't you showcase the community college project, where it's like framing your research as like some way to highlight community colleges, and that like this is a gap you're missing in your journal, fill it in. That hasn't worked too much yet, but for the revision part, they were like, oh, we are actually interested in this, the community college part, but like you need to, not so much how the project ran, just different things.
Yeah, a lot of people or journals may be interested in community colleges, but because it can, with the workload and all the different things we have to do, it can be difficult for those scholars to get a lot of output, or maybe even feel confident enough to submit to particular journals. But yeah, that is a great excuse me, it's a great way to frame it.
So that's
Okay. So this has been a great conversation, and as we reach the end of today's Teahouse chat, we'd like to thank you for joining us as we shared our thoughts on today's topic, the rejection and revision. And we hope you found some fresh ideas and inspiration for your own scholarly publishing journey. Let us hear from you. You can share your thoughts, questions, or suggestions for future topics. Your insights make our Teahouse richer. Our contact information is in the show notes. Let's keep the conversation brewing. Together, we're building a community of scholars supporting scholars. Until next time, keep the kettle warm and your ideas flowing. Here's to your